Hello, I'm Charles Curvis, Australasia's passion provocateur, and welcome to this week's episode of The Charles Curvis Show, whether you're watching on Rumble or on YouTube or on one of the many podcasting platforms. This is the place to be inspired to live a life of passion that is guided by your ever-increasing self-awareness about who you are and what you want your life to be. My definition of passion, it's a source of unlimited energy from your soul, your spirit, your heart, that enables you to produce extraordinary results, extraordinary results. One of my mantras is greatness can only be achieved through passion. My wish for you is that you live a life of greatness. So let's get into this week's topic and what we might do about the issues that I'm going to be talking about. And I'm talking about 7 current big issues that seem to preoccupy a lot of people I mix with from right around the world. So what these 7 big issues are that are causing many people to be worried. And then I'm going to share passion strategies that will reduce your life and unleash your unique genius. These strategies work. I've been teaching them for 33 years. And then I've got a couple of book suggestions for you at the end, and a song and a health tip. Mainstream media thrives on bad news. Good news doesn't sell enough media. Shock and awe and bad news and destruction grabs more eyeballs. You've heard that over the years, even though sometimes when there's a piece of good news, it will take front page dominance. But overwhelmingly, bad news dominates. It makes sense, of course, because who's going to read about the fact that the good news is that you arrived at work safely today, or that everyone arrived at work safely today? No, it's the exception that is news by definition. New stuff. However, all of this bad news, and there's some major issues that are dominating this bad news, and 7 that I'm going to particularly talk about, cause lots of worry. And that worry is highlighted and built about by the ongoing repetition. And so we think, well, because it's being repeated, it must be a huge problem. And so we become ever more worried if we're not careful. And I'm going to share what it means to be careful about this, what to do about it, what strategies to do so that your experience of life in the midst of these big issues is an enjoyable one, is a passionate one, is an inspiring one, is a fulfilling one. Worrying is not useful. It is not empowering. It disempowers you. Worrying sucks your energy. And your energy, remember, passion is a source of energy that enables you to produce results. If you are losing energy because of worry, your ability to produce results reduces. Worrying sucks your energy. Worrying reduces your creativity. The distinction between you and AI is your creativity, your imagination. Worrying takes that away from you. Worrying makes you more like AI than being human. Worrying is like carrying a 30-kilogram suitcase. Now, if you fly business class, the maximum suitcase you can put there is 35 kilo. You try carrying a 35-kilogram suitcase. I say worrying is like walking around with a 30-kilogram suitcase that you're carrying that is not on wheels. Worrying dominates your thoughts. It blocks the most important parts of your life, your loving relationships, your relationships with other members of family and friends, your ability to make a contribution to your community. Worrying is bad for you. A humorous idea that I've shared in many seminars over the last 30 plus years is the wonderful saying by Alfred E. Newman, who was the star of Mad Magazine. And his 3-word mantra was this: what? Me worry? It's a great idea, isn't it? Why would you worry? You can be concerned about something, but it's quite different to worrying about it. So overall strategy is to adopt the Alfred E. Newman strategy. But let's go into 7 practical big issues, and then we'll apply these strategies. Number 1, global problems generally. There's so many problems that the mainstream media is reporting because of the 24/7 coverage of all these global problems, that it just seems there's problems everywhere. And so we're worrying about all these problems happening all around the world in 200 plus countries around the world. Well, the way I handle this enormous volume of problems is to imagine back 500 years ago, back to 1526, shortly before the reign of Henry VIII in the UK, around the time of Martin Luther, and his demands for the Catholic Church, and the demands that he nailed onto the wall of, I think, the Wittenberg Cathedral 500 years ago. Think about what life was like then. You would be living in a village. You would know what's happening in your village to some degree, and 2 or 3 villages around you. You would have no idea what's happening generally around the world. For your whole life, you were blissfully ignorant. Maybe sometimes there was a piece of news that came in from somewhere, but you had spent no time at all worrying about what was happening elsewhere. I think that is a very practical way in which to observe that something's happening. You can't do anything about it. You choose not to worry about it. You learn to ignore the issues that you're not going to be able to do anything about. And this is where passion comes in. And you say, what am I really interested in? Because if you're interested in everything, you will be great at nothing. The choice we make, Peter Drucker famously said, the essence of strategy is the ability to say no. You must say no. As you do, because when you choose a television station, you're saying no to hundreds of other television stations. So you're used to making that choice. Well, similarly with global problems, you make a choice. If you can't do anything about Muslims in Nigeria slaughtering Christians, don't think about it. And practice being present. You see, being present is one of the strategies to avoiding worry. You are present in this moment while you're watching or listening to this program, and you go, wow, here I am. I'm able to watch this program that Charles Kovess produced. You might be anywhere else in the world where you're watching this, and you go, I'm present now. I've got enough food to eat, like most people on the planet. In fact, less than 10% of the world's population, less than 10%, it's down to 9%. I've got the data on this. I've talked about it in previous shows. Only a tiny percentage of the world's population haven't got enough to survive on each day. So you watching this, you have. So be present and appreciate what is good now in your life. Remember, worrying is an energy suck. Not good for you. The second big worry, losing your job or losing your own business. With the advance of artificial intelligence and all of the predictions of all of the jobs that are being wiped out. In fact, I read an economic article last Friday that I've shared with many people about all of the major corporations that have got rid of jobs because AI are doing these jobs. You might be worried that you'll lose your job. Well, part of the issue is, if you lost your job, what would you do? And I have, over the years, given counsel to many people who were terrified of losing their job in a job that they hated, that killed their passion. And the data that I have is that less than 20% of people are passionate about their work. So 80% of people go to do a job that doesn't inspire them, that doesn't harness their passion, that doesn't unleash anything like what they're capable of. And people are stuck in, you might be stuck in a job, and then suddenly you lose that job and you're worried about losing that job, when in fact the loss of that job could be the best thing that ever happens to you. And it's a whole new way of thinking of being present and going, gosh, at the moment, I don't want to lose this job because I need the cash flow. I hate this job. But then that might start your thinking to go, it's about time to take Charles's advice and start to decide what I really want to do. Or if it's your business and you're struggling in the business and, if you let it go, what happens if you let the job go, if you let the business go? Suddenly new opportunities become real. And when you think about what work is, what jobs are simply a contract where you are selling your services to an enterprise or your own business. You're adding value to that business. Money creation, generating value, is by solving people's problems. And when you look at all of the problems that need to be solved, you start to go, gosh, there's many, many ways in which to solve problems. And then you tap into your creativity and your imagination, and you can do that when you stop your worrying. And this becomes, the reason why I'm going to keep reinforcing in this is because when this becomes your new habit, you unleash your true genius. You start to go deep into your soul, harnessing your subconscious powers, but deep into your soul to go, what do I really want to do? What is the life that is going to fulfill me? And so worrying about a loss of job or a loss of business is not going to get you along the road very much at all. One of the problems that we think about when we lose a job, when we lose a business, is, we'll go bankrupt. I love the line in Me and Bobby McGee, and I remind you to listen to it, when Janis Joplin is singing that famous line, which I love: freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. And most people that I talk to started when they, in their early 20s with nothing, and they built up their resources. You today are far more competent than you were when you were 20, 21. You are enormously competent, able to do amazing things and to solve all of your problems when you turn your mind, your creativity, your imagination to it. And part of this is to remind yourself of all of these skills that you have developed. Of course, inherent in this is your health. And through my 245 episodes of the Charles Covey Show, I've always talked about health, because these ideas I'm sharing with you are directly related to the quality of your health. So I urge you to every day, all during the day, constantly be thinking about, how can I improve my health? Because that health also leads to the quality of your thinking, the quality of your imagination, the quality of your creativity. And lastly, on this question of a job that you don't like, but it's giving you this illusion of security, my favorite line is, don't stay in a shitty job. You are paying such a big price in so many ways, including your relationships, including the suppression of who you truly are. Big challenge number 3 that a lot of people talk about is the woke movement and the DEI movement, the diversity, equality, inclusion movements. And I reject these movements. They are disempowering. You might be in a workplace where this nonsense is promulgated, and I'm delighted that Donald Trump has absolutely put a stop in government as best he can to suppressing the whole DEI movement. It is a fraud. And the way to handle this fraud is, because you get caught up in it. If you do something that in an environment you get cancelled, Well, number one, that's not an environment you want to be in. And number two, it's stopping your ability to speak the truth. And the solution to the woke and DEI movements is to speak your truth. Now, you might pay a price for doing that. I pay a price in all the decisions I make. You pay a price every time. And the question from this show, what I'm constantly trying to inspire you to do, is to understand what sort of life that you want. Do you want a suppressed half-life, or do you want a full life? And the more of us that speak out against DEI lies, against percentages, against the woke movement, I haven't got time to go into what I should do a show on that, of the laughable nature of many of the woke principles. The more of us that speak truth about this, the faster this nonsense disappears. The more able you are to speak truth, the more liberated, the freer you are. Another key strategy here is to make sure that you mix in communities that agree with you on these items. Don't stick with people who support DEI and wokeness if you don't. Mixing with the wrong gangs can massively and negatively impact on your life. Your job is to find which communities you want to be in, and part of our evolution in life is to let go of the gangs, I say that in a positive sense, but the gangs that we are in that don't serve us. And it takes courage to do that, because you might have lifelong friends that you have been with, but you have to ask the question, are they lifting you up or pulling you down? Or another way to think of that is in terms of mathematics. Are they subtracting from you? Are they dividing you? Or on the other hand, are they adding to you or multiplying to you? People who subtract from you and divide you, don't mix with them to the greatest extent possible. Leave those gangs, join new gangs. The fourth big issue is the problems of political Islam in Australia, in Ireland, in Western Europe, in the US. Political Islam aims to convert every country into an Islamic state. I am implacably opposed to political Islam, and if we do not speak up against political Islam, we are in grave danger. And it is my considered view that the United Kingdom is lost to political Islam, that the major cities in that country are controlled by Islamic groups and gangs, leading to horrific problems of 2 and 3 systems of law. There must be one system of law in a country, and any country that is not Islamic, if it doesn't vote to become Islamic, must resist political Islam. Again, the solution to this is, if you decide to do something about it, is to speak up about it, is to shine a light on it. And I make the distinction here between individual Muslims as human beings, who I love, and political Islam, which is a process to convert Australia and every other non-Islamic country into an Islamic country. If non-Muslims don't speak up against this threat, it is going to destroy every country where that happens, including Australia. That's why I speak up about it. And the more of us that speak up against the encroachment of political Islam in Australia, the better the future will be for this country. Current issue number 5. The problem of unreasonable laws, of laws that take away inalienable rights, that take away your freedoms. The solution here is to adopt the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi of non-violent non-compliance. If a law is crazy in your view, if it is unethical, if it's immoral, if it's unjust, then non-compliance is what to do about it. And to give you a practical example of that, if you were living in Iran, and the reports are that 85% of the population of Iran do not want the Ayatollah and the religious fanatics running the country. They are not Muslims. If you look at the history of the Persians, They don't want the current regime, but what can they do about it? They go on the street and they're shot. The answer for Iran is non-violent non-compliance. The population should stay at home and bring Iran to a halt. Non-compliance is very powerful. Think about how you might do that in your life to do something about laws that you consider to be immoral, improper, unjust, unfair. Current issue number 6 is the alleged climate emergency. There is no climate emergency. We have an environmental emergency. There is no climate emergency. There is absolutely no chance that levels of CO2 in our atmosphere will cause climate disaster. The evidence is overwhelmingly clear. And so the solution to this is to take an interest. Don't be swamped by this repetition message from the mainstream media, the climate emergency, climate emergency. Energy and electricity are the foundational differences of rich and poor countries. Energy is what drives GDP. There is a globalist agenda to fool you that there's a climate emergency. And the 2 books I want to refer to you that are most enjoyable to read and what good ways to educate yourself are Mark Morano's book from the late 2019-2020, Green Fraud. Mark Morano is considered one of the great climate deniers. I happen to know him personally. He's terrific. And Ian Plimer, an Australian geologist, professor, his book, Green Murder. Both enjoyable to read, both shine a light on what the true situation is. Increasing carbon dioxide does not cause disruption in the climate. Educating yourself is the way to cease worrying about this. And where that leads to is that you need to educate your children, because children in many Western countries are being taught lies about the climate. You see, if energy and electricity is unaffordable and or unavailable, your lifestyle will drop dramatically. What that means is that the middle classes, the expenses of living go up. The middle classes are reduced in their wealth situation, and where that leads is that there's an increasing divide between a small number of elites and more poor people. And then what happens is that the power of the elites, like in Iran, to control the masses is increased. We need to be aware of this, and we need to take steps to stop it, and that's why educating yourselves around the climate truth is a practical, useful thing to do that removes your worry and indeed might inspire you to do something about this fraud. And the last current issue that really exercises my mind to a large degree is dishonest politicians. I want you to think about who is paying the politicians, who the puppet masters are. I've heard some very interesting news in Australia about puppet masters, and particularly in Victoria, that politicians are doing the bidding of some of the elites to whom I referred earlier. Our job is to understand that politicians need money to be elected. They then receive money from people, and then the game is to minimize the levels of corruption, but then these politicians are often rewarded personally, like Nancy Pelosi, reportedly worth $198 million, and other Australian politicians. The data, I have some data, but I haven't got time to go through that now. Many politicians become very wealthy on quite low salaries in Australia and other places. And I want to know who the puppet masters are. I want to hold politicians to account, particularly for any wealth that they earn. And so one of the strategies that I recommend is that all of us pay attention to the wealth of politicians after they've retired from politics. I want to shine a light on any obvious demonstration of wealth by them that would show that they received benefits under the table from their puppet masters. Now, the practical demonstration of these benefits of who become politicians is the Jeffrey Epstein files. And this is a horror show of the highest order, 3 million pages. Epstein, he might be alive, he might be dead. Again, one of the keys to not worrying is to have an open mind about anything that you read in the mainstream media. But Epstein and the honeypot strategies of particularly young girls, and seducing these politicians into his web. So why would he be doing that? The answer is control and blackmail, a puppet master strategy. And I want to read to you from an extract from the Washington Times on the 28th of January this year. All right? Epstein was in the business of trafficking young girls for all sorts of benefits. And one of the questions that's never been answered is, where did Jeffrey Epstein get his money from? There are all sorts of reports from it. Think about that. Who was funding Epstein? And if they fund Epstein, who can he control in this web of control? And this article in Washington Times just 11 days ago is sex trafficking's profitability stymieing child protection efforts. There's an article by Donna Rice Hughes. Let me read some extracts. At nearly 250 years old, and she's talking about the USA, but this also applies to Australia, our nation has had to confront a lot of challenges, one of which was slavery. Today's slavery is one of the most brutal forms of abuse in the world, child sex trafficking. And that's what Jeffrey Epstein was on about. Next sentence, or next quote. Sex trafficking is profitable for traffickers, child pornographers, crime syndicates, and even big tech. Globally, human trafficking generates, here's the number, hundreds of billions of dollars each year. Hundreds of billions of dollars each year, with commercial sexual exploitation accounting for most profits. Unlike those involved with drugs or weapons, human traffickers can exploit the same victim repeatedly, turning children into renewable commodities for criminal enterprises. Next quote. The companies that design addictive platforms for children and profit from keeping them online spend more money lobbying Washington than many entire industries. Next quote. Sex trafficking thrives on money, technology, and silence. Big tech has provided all three. The last sentence, our elected leaders can continue to shield powerful corporations, or they can confront a system that allows children to be bought and sold online. Hundreds of billions of dollars. I'm appalled by this. This is why I'm supporting Buttonheart Bear. Buttonheart is a metaphor, is a cause marketing character to remind us of the horrors of trafficking children for sex and slavery. And Jeffrey Epstein and ranges of dishonest politicians, including the most recent Peter Mandelson, who was appointed by the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, to be the US ambassador, to be the UK ambassador to the US. He's now been removed, but Mandelson's history of dishonesty, of corruption, is quite extraordinary if you take an interest in it. And we, as the people, it is up to us to do something about it if we choose to. And all of these 7 current issues, I'm dealing with ways to handle it so that you don't get worried about them. And then if you want to do something about it, what might you do? So my message today is, when you change your thinking by not worrying, you change your life. I remind you of Earl Nightingale's famous story, The Strangest Secret. And the strangest secret is this, back from 1957. You become what you think about most of the time. You become what you think about most of the time. So do you want to be inspired, or do you want to be worried? There's the simple dichotomy. It's much more complex than that. But if you spend your life worrying, you become a worrier. You become what you think about most of the time. Your experience of life is a function of your repetitive input into your mind. And you can change it. Wherever you've come from, you can make a decision today to change that repetition, to change your sources of information, to change what you focus on. My wish for you is that you create a worry-free life, or minimal worry life of passion and commitment. And lastly, I remind you of Buckminster Fuller's wonderful principle. And he said this, and I've done a whole show on this, but it's a great reminder here because we worry about problems. Bucky said this, as a human being, your reward for solving your problems is not peace or satisfaction or momentary progress or happiness. Your reward for solving your problems is bigger problems. And that's fun. That's a great way to live life. That's a great way to embrace the problems because that's what keeps you interested. If you didn't have problems, you would die of Alzheimer's or dementia. It is problems that unleash your creativity, your imagination. But if you're immersed in worry, those resources become lost to you. Today's show is a reminder to re-engage with your true genius, unleash your creativity, unleash your imagination, and feed your mind in ways that will enable you to live life on your terms. And that includes watching this show, watching past episodes of this show, and shows like this. My books, as I say, that I recommend to you are by Ian Plimer, Green Murder, and Mark Morano, The Green New Deal. And the song is Me and Bobby McGee by Janis Joplin, and that great line, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. I hope today's show makes a beneficial difference to your life, a life that I believe is meant to be all that you're capable of making of it. Have a look at our websites, covest.com, charlescovest.com, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and ask your friends and family and work colleagues to subscribe. My goal here is that everyone who watches this show gains enormous benefit for their own lives. Thanks for watching or listening. Until the next show, have a great week, have a great 2 weeks. Live life on your terms, unleash your passion, and make your contribution that will reward you in extraordinary ways. Bye for now.